a shooter, and we needed to lock the door, turn off the lights, and hide. But our substitute Mr. Pell was standing next to the open door with the lights still on, and said, "I'm only allowed to follow your teacher's lesson plan, and it just says to do your worksheet, so you're going to keep doing the worksheet." Every other classroom had already locked their door and turned off the lights. A kid in the back stood up. "Mr. Pell, we need to hide or we're going to die. If your teacher sees the worksheet isn't done, I'm going to get fired." A girl screamed down the hallway, and then we heard two loud popping sounds. "Mr. Pell, that was a weapon. Please close the door." Mr. Pell laughed. "That was a chair falling over. Sit down." Then a girl said, "The news says there's a shooting here. Please close the door. You need to listen to the lesson plan, not the news. Now be quiet and do your work." That's when I had enough. I ran to the door and pushed it shut. I locked it and flipped the lights off. Mr. Pell gasped, "How dare you disobey the lesson plan? I hope you get fired." "Everyone hide," I said. Everyone hid in the back of the classroom. Mr. Pell still tried to unlock the door, but I blocked him. "I'm not dying because of you." Mr. Pell gritted his teeth, and that's when we heard footsteps walking down the hallway. And then our door handle rattled, but the door was locked. But Mr. Pell was reaching to unlock it, so I punched him so hard, he knocked out. And then the footsteps walked away. Nobody said a word for 40 minutes, until the SWAT team knocked in a special way and said the shooters had been arrested. Then the principal came to our room and told Mr. Pell, "You left the door open during a school shooting. You're fired." Mr. Pell stormed up to me. "You got me fired. All you had to do was follow the lesson plan." I balled my fist like I was going to hit him again. He screamed like a little girl and hid behind the principal. I pulled the dust cover off my dad's '69 Camaro and blew off 2 years of dust. I climbed.
الآن قرب جيل فيوجن 5.
سر مراد حسان المثالي.
My creative process is more around breaking recipes more so than following.
Only way to drive a Camaro. We spent 5 years rebuilding it every Saturday for the May drag race. 2 years ago, he had a heart attack 6 weeks before race day and died holding my hand. The car sat rotting in the garage ever since, and May was 3 weeks away. I put my hands on the wheel and shut my eyes. "I'm finishing it, Dad. We're winning the race for both of us." I worked every night that month. I bolted the engine in, ran the new wiring, dropped the radiator, and torqued every bolt the way he taught me. 3 weeks in, I turned the key for the first time, and it fired on the second crank. The engine sounded exactly like I remembered. Race morning, I drove to the strip with my hands shaking on the wheel. I rolled up to the line. The seat next to me was empty, but I could feel Dad grinning in it. The flag dropped and I jumped on the throttle. The car launched and pinned me to the seat. I hit second, third, fourth, and the line came up faster than I could think. I crossed it first. I sat in the staging lane and rolled the windows all the way down. He used to drive me around in this car when I was a kid. Tonight I drove him. I drove home with the windows down, just like he used to. I was standing in court when my neighbor Barb held up her bandaged hand and told the judge she had been traumatized by my vicious dog. The judge looked at me. "Where's the defendant?" I reached into my bag and pulled out Peanut, my 9-pound senior chihuahua wearing tiny sunglasses because I was worried the courtroom lights would hurt his eyes, and the judge stared at him. "Is this a joke?" I shook my head. "This is Peanut. He has arthritis in 3 legs, and his favorite hobby is sleeping." Peanut yawned, and you could see his one remaining tooth, which made the judge put his head in his hands. I could not wait to see how this ended. Barb launched into her testimony. "That beast stalked me for weeks. Every day I walked past and there he was, watching me, waiting, planning." The judge looked at Peanut, who had already passed out in my arms with drool running down my sleeve. "That dog?" Barb pointed at Peanut. "Yes, he's not as innocent as he looks." I couldn't stay quiet. "Your Honor, Peanut can't see past 5 feet because of his cataracts." Barb kept going, holding up her bandaged thumb. "I was minding my own business when that hellhound lunged at me and attacked my hand. He needs to be put down." The judge squinted at her thumb. "Did you need medical attention?" Barb gasped, putting her hand against her chest dramatically. "No, but it drew blood, Your Honor. I had to fight for my life." "And how exactly did you fight a 9-pound dog?" I asked. Barb scoffed. "I made a defensive leg motion." The judge raised an eyebrow. "You kicked the dog." Barb threw up her hands. "I had to, or that rabid little rat could have killed me." The judge looked at me. "Do you have anything to add?" I nodded. "My doorbell camera got everything." The bailiff pulled up the footage, and we watched Barb walk up and reach toward Peanut while he was sleeping on the porch. When Peanut ignored her, she kicked him, launching him back. Peanut had to scramble backwards, and you could hear him making sounds like a dying, squeaky toy. Then Barb looked in both directions before yanking her hand back directly into the thorns on my rose bush. The judge's face went completely flat. "So you reached for a sleeping dog on someone else's property, kicked him, and then scratched yourself on a bush, and now you want him put down." Barb turned red and stomped her foot. The video doesn't show how vicious he was. The judge shook his head and sighed. "Case dismissed. Go get some help." I walked up to the judge. "Your Honor, I want to press charges for animal cruelty since since she traumatized
Every
my vicious
press
dog.
started.
Me and my dad were waiting in the line at a
Press
theme park when a teenager
started.
aggressively pushed past us and skipped to the front. I turned to my dad, but he was just humming like he didn't care. "Dad, aren't you gonna do something?" The teenager heard me and instantly turned around and got in my dad's face. "Yeah, aren't you gonna do something, old man?" But my dad kept humming and simply replied, "The world will do more to you than I ever could, young man." The teenager scoffed. "That's the most stupid thing I've ever
Okay.
heard." He turned around and we all got on the
Yeah.
ride. I asked Dad why he didn't do something, and he smiled. The world has a way of teaching people. The teenager again heard and laughed, "Stupid old man," under his
lesson.
breath. But then during the ride, the teenager threw his arms up and his phone slipped from his pocket and flew through the air. It landed on my dad's lap and I just stared at it. "Are you going to give it back?"
gonna give it
Dad
back?
slipped it into his pocket and smirked. "We'll see." We got off the ride, and when the teenager realized his phone was missing, he instantly went pale. He screamed at the ride attendant that the ride needs to be shut down to find his phone. She said she couldn't do that, but he grabbed her radio and called her supervisor. I looked over, and my dad was laughing. The teenager sobbed, looking around the ride for his phone, and calling the employees incompetent for losing it. I asked my dad if he should just give the phone back, but he smiled. "Not yet. The kid needs to learn." 10 staff members were now helping him look. He yelled at the park manager that he was going to sue for negligence. The entire park had stopped because of his meltdown, but then my dad took a step forward. He tapped the teenager's shoulder and suggested he check his pockets. The teenager screamed, "I already checked them," and slapped his pockets to show his phone wasn't there. But then he suddenly felt something. He reached in his pocket and pulled out his phone, the one he'd been looking for. My dad smirked, and I instantly realized my dad had quietly snuck the phone back into the teenager's pocket without him realizing. The park manager asked the
That's
teenager, "So, the phone was in your pocket the whole
Davida.
time?" And he went red with embarrassment while the whole park stared. He screamed, "But how is that possible?" My dad smiled at him. "I told you the world will teach you more than I ever could. Next time, don't be such an asshole." He walked away, and the teenager stood there shaking, because in his eyes, his phone was in his pocket the whole time. The world had actually just taught him a lesson. My twin brother revved his new go-kart and yelled, "Loser does all the chores for the rest of the week." I revved mine right back at Vince. "Bet." I pointed at the corner store, there and back. Mom stood on the driveway holding her coffee. "Be careful, boys." As she turned to head back inside, we hit the gas before her hand even left the door. 3 blocks in, Vince hit a banana peel and his cart spun sideways into Mrs. Henley's trash
wait.
cans. Garbage spilled all over the sidewalk and a trash can landed on top of Vince. "Who leaves a banana peel in the road?"
Okay.
I sped past him, laughing so hard I could barely steer. I turned around to laugh harder and didn't see the hay bale sitting in Mr. Kornecki's driveway. I hit it right in the middle and went flying over his lawn. Why was there a hay bale in June? Vince blew
I don't
past
know.
me before I could get going
I
again,
don't
so I
know.
cut through the Wilsons' yard to catch up and
really wanna talk to you.
That's
I really wanna know you.
bed right next to me
Great.
with mulch
Nice.
flying off his tires. We hit our driveway at the same exact moment, and Mom timed us on her phone. I beat him by half a second. I threw my fists in the air.
Oh,
Vince spiked his helmet so hard it bounced into the street. By 2, I was floating in the pool with a Capri Sun watching Vince push the lawnmower in the heat. Halfway through my second Capri Sun, the doorbell rang and the phone started ringing. Mom came out holding a notepad 3 pages long. Mrs. Henley wants her trash picked up. Mr. Kornecki wants his hay bale back. The Wilsons want new sprinklers. The Murphys want their flower bed replanted. And both of you are grounded until the end of the year. I won the race. We did every chore on that list together. Then we watched Dad's pickup pull out of the driveway with both our go-karts in the bed. I saw my brother on his hands and knees wiping food off the cafeteria floor with his bare hands when I went to pick him up after school. 3 grown men were standing over him, and one of them had a phone 2 inches from his face. My
Beat him
brother
up.
looked up at them and said, "I helping clean up." The one with the camera turned to his friends and goes, "I told you he'd do it. He'll do anything you tell him." I clenched my fists. My brother has
Okay.
Down syndrome, so he didn't understand what was happening. But I did, and they were about to find out what happens when you touch my family. I came through the door, and none of them noticed. The one with the
Beat him
phone
up.
patted my brother on the head like a dog. "Good job, buddy. Keep going." My brother kept wiping because he thought he was doing something good. The guy leaned down and flicked his ear, missed a spot. The other 2 doubled over, and the guy with the phone crouched down and zoomed the camera right into my brother's face. "Smile for the camera." My brother
no,
smiled.
no,
He
no,
always
no.
smiles. I tapped the guy on the shoulder, and he turned around still laughing. Punch. His whole body folded backward, and he hit the floor. I reached down, helped my brother up, and stood in front of him. The other 2 stepped
Bro,
forward
kill
like they were
him.
going to do something, then looked up at me and stopped. I'm 6'7". One of them put his hands up
6'7".
and goes, "You're huge, bro. We don't want problems." Then get on your
Huge, bro.
knees. All 3 of them dropped. The one I'd punched started running his mouth from the floor. "You just assaulted me. I'm calling the cops. You're
just
done." I picked up
assaulted
his phone and held it in front of his face. The video of my brother was still on screen. What happens when this gets
Happens
out?
when this
3
gets
grown
out.
men making a kid with
Three
Down
grown
syndrome
men
crawl on the floor for
crawl on
content?
the floor
He went
for
quiet.
content?
I hit record and pointed the camera at all 3 of them. Now lick it up. Nobody moved. Lick it up. The one I punched went
Lick
first,
it
then the other
up.
2. All 3 of
Lick
them
it
on
up,
their
bro.
hands and knees licking food off a cafeteria floor while I recorded every second of it. My brother peeked out from behind me and his face lit up. Look, they good doggies. He walked over and started patting them on their heads one by one, same way they'd patted his. Job good buddy, keep going. My daughter almost died on
Yeah.
Christmas Eve because I told her the elf on the shelf was real. We rented a cabin up in Montana so our 5-year-old could see real snow on Christmas for the first time. We strung up lights and hung stockings on the fireplace, and the last thing I set up was the elf
No,
on a
it's
shelf
the,
right above the fireplace.
I almost
I
said
knelt
that.
down next to her
It's
and
the
pointed
elf.
up at it. If the elf ever falls off, he has to walk
He
all
has
the
to
way
walk
back
all
to
the way
Santa
back
through
to
the snow,
Santa through
and he
the
won't
snow.
come back until next
He won't
Christmas.
come
She
back
didn't just
till
believe me.
next
I walked past the
Christmas?
shelf one morning and caught her on a step stool whispering to it with her eyes closed. She set a cup of tea next to it every night before bed. She wouldn't even breathe near the shelf. For 3 days, that cabin felt like the most perfect Christmas we'd ever had. 2 nights before Christmas, I woke up at 5 a.m. to a freezing breeze coming from downstairs. My wife and I rushed down, and the sliding door was wide open with snow blowing across the floor. I ran to her room, empty. Her coat was still hanging by the front door. Back in the living room, the elf was lying on the floor, and a cup of cold tea was sitting on the shelf where it
Is
used
she
to be.
going
My
to
wife found a
Santa?
crumpled napkin by the door. In messy crayon, it said, "I'll be back soon, Mommy and Daddy. I have to help the elf walk back to Santa so he can come back for Christmas." She was out there in the snow at 5 years old doing exactly what I told her would happen. I ran barefoot trying to get a signal on my phone, and after what felt like forever, one bar popped up and I called 911. They came fast. A firefighter found her in the woods curled up with no coat, and her lips were already turning blue. They rushed her inside and she made it. But ever since
Hypothermia.
that night, she hasn't been able to hold on to long-term memories.
Yeah.
Every Christmas, I put the elf away before she can see it. Last year, she found the box, pulled it out, and held it up to me. "Daddy, what is this?" A little girl with no hair walked onto the field at
does
halftime
she
and
not
got ready
have-
to take her penalties. For every goal she scored, the club would donate $100 to cancer charity. She was a huge fan, and I saw her at every game, so we were excited to give her this moment.
Yeah.
But I remembered before the game, our goalkeeper told me he wasn't going to let her score because it would be
No, no,
embarrassing
no,
for
no.
him.
Beat
I
him
thought he
up.
was joking until she took her first penalty, and when the ball rolled towards the goal, he stopped it at the line. The smile on the girl's face dropped immediately as the crowd started
No,
booing
beat
the
her, though.
goalkeeper. The girl looked around, scared of everyone making loud noises, and tried her best to take another penalty. But again, the goalkeeper saved it, smirking the whole time and clapping right at her. I was shocked because his pride was too big to let a girl with cancer score goals for her charity. The crowd booed louder, and when he saved her third penalty, the girl started tearing up. Our goalkeeper pumped his fists in the air, celebrating saving all of her shots. "Not embarrassing me today, little girl." The crowd was now throwing stuff at him, and the girl started crying because her only happy moment in months had just been ruined. That's when I had enough. My own daughter had died of cancer, and I jogged out because I wasn't going to let this jerk ruin her moment. The goalkeeper
laughing
mouthed,
because
"What are you
he-
doing?" But I just smirked at him and gently asked the girl to pass me the ball. Then I kicked it from 15 feet out as hard as I could. The keeper dived, but it hit his face just like I aimed it. He immediately dropped to the floor and put his hands over his nose, groaning in pain, and that's when I passed the ball back to the girl. She quickly took a shot, and the ball flew into the net. The whole stadium erupted, and I put the girl on my shoulders while she laughed and pointed at the goalkeeper, rolling around with a broken nose. He was now way more embarrassed than he would have been had he just let her score, especially when the announcer yelled "goal" over and over.
The first rule of football? No hands. Even when in America.
And that's half time.
Yeah?
Give your customers instant
Bro, why
around the
am I-
clock hands
A placeholder. 10 years of teaching him to ride a bike, throw a baseball, and tie a tie flashed through my head, but his cold eyes set me straight. "Okay, I respect your choice," I said calmly. His younger brother Charlie watched the whole thing and ran over to hug me. "It's okay, Dad." Charlie glared at Joshua. "He left once, and he'll do it again. You know that, right?" Rick showed up Saturday in a rented BMW,
No
and
shit.
Joshua ran out with a packed bag. While Joshua loaded the car, Rick promised him a car for his birthday and college money. "You okay, Dad?" Charlie asked. He made his choice. "Want to build that bookshelf we've been planning?" Charlie and I spent the the day in the garage while Rick bought Joshua an iPhone 15 and designer clothes. He's the best dad I could ever ask for, Joshua told me when he was back. But 2 weeks later on his birthday, Rick texted, "Sorry buddy, can't make dinner. Work emergency." Joshua celebrated by himself at McDonald's. Rick promised Christmas in Aspen but texted, "Sorry kid, girlfriend doesn't want kids along." Charlie and I spent New Year's cooking mom's recipes while Joshua sat alone in his room after Rick canceled New Year's in Times Square. Then Joshua's graduation day arrived in May, and I didn't know if I could go until Charlie handed me his tie. I want to see my brother graduate. We sat in the auditorium watching Joshua's head snap toward the door every time it opened, hoping Rick showed up. But he texted, "Something came up. Congrats though. Send pics." Joshua walked across the stage, face pale and tears in his eyes. After the ceremony, he found us in the parking lot. "You actually came? Charlie wanted to see you graduate," I said coldly. Charlie glared at Joshua. "You had a dad who loved you, and you threw him away for someone who doesn't even show up." I thought my student was mute. Turns out he'd been speaking the entire time. Kai was a new boy in my art class who was pale and way too skinny for an 8-year-old. When I welcomed him, he flinched backwards, but his mom explained he was just shy because he was mute and chronically ill. As soon as she left, Kai sat down and got to work. Within minutes, I looked over and he was already done. It was a gray house, but the grass was purple. I laughed and showed him the green, but his face stayed completely serious. Every class after that, Kai painted that gray house, but with colors that made zero sense. Orange sky one day, then an indigo dog. After 3 weeks of classes, I noticed he looked thinner, which didn't make sense for such a short time. He could barely hold the paintbrush steady anymore. By the 4th week, the kid could barely sit up straight in his chair. I asked his mother about it when she picked him up. She explained, "The doctors say it's normal progression for his condition." The paintings kept getting stranger with pink grass and lavender skies and emerald suns, while Kai kept looking worse with these dark circles under his eyes that looked almost black. After he painted one with burgundy clouds and ultraviolet rain, he didn't show up for an entire week. When he finally came back, his mother was basically holding him up as they walked in. I got suspicious, so after school, I spread out his paintings all out on my desk and started looking at every single wrong color because it seemed like a pattern. Purple appeared 8 times, orange 6 times, always on specific objects and never on the house itself. I wrote down just the first letters of each wrong color, and suddenly everything clicked when I saw it spelled poison. I reached for the next painting and saw please. I could barely focus as I decoded the next few, help, then hurt, then the one that made me panic, tomorrow gone. I was crying and dialing 911 at the same time, screaming into the phone, "A child is being systematically poisoned by his parents." He spelled it out in paintings. The dispatcher heard how hysterical I was and sent everyone immediately. The detective looked at the paintings and the color code I'd figured out, and his whole expression changed. They raced to Kai's house and found him unconscious in his bedroom. After sending him to the hospital and running tests, they found that his parents were poisoning him, which made him mute because they wanted to control his life. My mother walked into the kitchen holding a calendar with a date circled in red. "You have 1 month until you no longer exist." After she left my little brother, Theo looked at me and said, "What does that mean?" I choked on my own voice trying to explain. "Mom and Dad have this rule. Sometimes they pick someone in the family and that person has to go away. They burn all your photos and throw out all your stuff and nobody's allowed to say your name ever again." Theo's face crumpled. "Like Uncle Jack?" "Yeah, buddy, like Uncle Jack." My father started that night. He took a photo off the mantle of me and Theo at the beach and burned it in the kitchen sink while Theo watched. Then he threw out a bag of my clothes, then my books, then my shoes. Theo started crying and ran to the closet. I followed him and found him holding a photo of the 2 of us he'd stolen from the burn pile. "I don't want to forget you," he whispered. That's when I knew I needed to find a way to fight this for Theo's sake. While my parents were busy burning my schoolwork, I snuck into my father's office and started digging. I didn't know if I was going to find something, but in the back of a drawer, I found Uncle Jack's email and begged him to help me. Then I heard a noise behind me and my mother appeared in the doorway. "Rule breaker! Rule breaker!" Dad stormed in and said, "Now your removal happens tonight." They dragged me toward the back door while I screamed and thrashed. But then suddenly we saw red and blue lights, and my parents looked afraid, so I knew they weren't the ones who called them. The front door suddenly opened, and Uncle Jack walked in. My mother screamed, "You're not real anymore!" Uncle Jack said, "I'm real, but you're about to wish I wasn't." That's when the police walked in behind them. My father tried to run away, but an officer tackled him to the ground and cuffed him. My mother was cuffed seconds later, still screaming that Jack didn't exist. I ran to Uncle Jack's side and hid behind him. "How did you get here so quickly?" I asked. "I hid the email address in the drawer 6 years ago, on the night they erased me. I've been living in one town ever since, checking that inbox every morning, waiting for one of you to find it." I was substituting a class when suddenly every kid put on sunglasses at once. I thought it was weird but continued prepping them for their presentations, until I noticed the one kid without them. Claxton was at his desk suddenly shaking, whispering to himself, and he kept reaching into his backpack to touch something inside, but never pulling it out. I stood up and walked over to check his bag, but a girl in sunglasses shot up and blocked my way. Don't go near him, you'll only make it worse. I wondered what she meant and tried to walk around her, but then I saw Claxton's bag. It was open, and I saw something metallic and black inside. He saw me looking and quickly zipped it, almost hyperventilating. I wanted to call the principal, but if I got on my phone, Claxton would realize and do something. Then I looked up and saw Claxton with his bag standing up. He was walking to the front and his legs trembled the whole way. He put his bag down. I placed my hand on the security button under the desk. Claxton unzipped the bag.
شعر جائع، جذور دهنية، اطلب من
This is the
درايف
PC.
غذاء الشعر. جديد ماسك ألترا دو غذاء
هذيك
الشعر
the PC.
بالكيوي بماء الكيوي والمنثول. 98% أصل طبيعي. يستخدم
Flashcards. My presentation is on social anxiety disorder and how it affects my life. He stuttered, pale in the face. His eyes were darting around, scared of someone judging him. That's when I realized it. He couldn't see their eyes. All he saw was sunglasses. And slowly, he gained confidence. His voice got steadier, and his face became a normal color for the first time since I walked in. I realized Claxton wasn't a school shooter, and these kids had figured out how to make him pass his presentation. Someone then threw me a pair, and I quickly put them on, watching Claxton flawlessly talk about the hardest challenge in his life. I was doing a lab experiment in chemistry class when I passed out and hit the floor. When I opened my eyes, my lab partner stood over me and said, "Dude, you just collapsed." I looked around confused because I had no idea what happened. The whole class was staring. My chemistry teacher, Mrs. Brewer, marched over with her fists tight. "Get up, you're disrupting my class with your attention-seeking behavior." But I passed out. I didn't do it on purpose. She didn't care, and that's when I knew she was hiding something. She slammed her notebook on the desk. Principal's office. Now, I stood up dizzy and walked out. Why did I pass out in her class? The next day, Mrs. Brewer set up another lab experiment, but halfway through, a kid 2 tables over dropped. Then his partner fainted. Then the girl next to me passed out on the lab table and knocked over a beaker. I knew something was very wrong. Suddenly, I felt extremely dizzy, and I knew if I didn't leave, I would collapse again. So I ran out of the classroom without even asking for permission. From a distance, I could see through the classroom window. 3 more kids had passed out. Mrs. Brewer stood at her desk, arms crossed, not moving or doing anything to help them. I saw the principal walking past me and ran to him. I pointed at the lab. "Kids are collapsing in Mrs. Brewer's class right now. You need to help them." He walked back with me, looked through the window, and rolled his eyes like I was being annoying. "This is that new TikTok trend. You're not gonna trick me. It's not a trend. This is serious." He put his hand up. "Stop fooling around and get back to class." He walked away and didn't even try to investigate what was going on. The next day, I walked into class wearing a face mask that covered my mouth and nose because I wanted to do everything I could to make sure I didn't pass out again. Mrs. Brewer was standing at the board writing when her body went limp, and this time she was the one to collapse and hit the floor. The class panicked. Someone called 911. Medics rushed in and carried her out. Finally, the principal ran into the classroom to investigate. He looked at her desk and saw a chemical bottle tipped over with liquid dripping onto the floor. He saw her notebook opened next to it. None of us knew what was going on, but when he read the pages of the notebook, he finally explained. She was poisoning the lab experiments to see what effect it would have on you guys. Every time one of you passed out, she logged it. Names, dates, dosages. The bottle that spilled on her desk was the same poison she'd been putting in our experiments. We weren't her students. We were her lab rats. But why would she do that? I asked. The principal shrugged. "I think she just hates her job." My daughter was 10 months old when she said her first words, but instead of Mama or Dada, she said Mike. My name was Ben, and I didn't even know a Mike, so I cautiously asked my wife if she knew anyone named Mike. She shook her head. "I don't, but babies are weird. Don't think about it." But 2 days later, my daughter was in the kitchen, and I was preparing her food when I heard Mike again. I dropped the spoon of mashed apples, because where could she have learned Mike? My wife kept assuring me it was fine, but the sinking feeling in my gut wouldn't leave. That night, I went through my wife's social media, but there was nobody named Mike. I even looked up her family tree and saw no Mike. I figured maybe I was just stressed and overreacting, but then my daughter began saying Mike more often. She'd say Mike at breakfast and during bath time, even pointing at me while doing it, and never said anything else. I was losing my mind and decided to drive to my wife's work. I asked the receptionist, "Is there a Mike who works here?" "Yeah, he's in accounting." "Why?" "Oh, no reason." I walked out with a terrible feeling in my stomach. I drove home with my hands shaking on the steering wheel and ordered a small security camera online. I felt like one of those crazy people you see in stories online, but then my daughter pointed at me and said Mike one more time. I installed the camera while my wife wasn't looking and connected it to my phone. The next day I left for work, and during lunch my phone buzzed rapidly. I opened the security camera app, and there I saw it. My wife coming home with our daughter in her hands, and behind her a man I'd never seen. Our daughter was pointing at him and repeating Mike over and over. My stomach sank as I realized my wife was having an affair with her coworker. My 10-month-old daughter was the one who'd exposed her.
Yeah,
My
just
daughter's
kill her.
teacher called me at work and said, "Your daughter threw a rock at a classmate's head. Come here right now." I felt sick driving over, but the second I walked into the principal's office, my daughter Kayla ran up to me crying and said, "Daddy, I didn't throw the rock. I was at the art club, I swear." Her teacher, Mrs. Lane, instantly shook her head and told me girls Kayla's age are good at manipulating their parents and that they have footage of Kayla throwing the rock. I replied, "Let me see the footage," but Mrs. Lane suddenly stammered and said she couldn't pull it up right now. I looked back at my daughter, who'd never lied to me in her life, and told them I believed her. Mrs. Lane's face tightened, and she suspended Kayla anyway and put Kayla on expulsion review. That night at home, Kayla barely touched her dinner, and while crying showed me her phone filled with texts from classmates calling her psycho, and group chats with her photo edited with the word monster written across her face. I was furious and walked into school next morning and asked the school counselor for the art club sign-in sheet from yesterday. I looked through it and saw Kayla had signed in during the time of the rock incident. She couldn't have thrown the rock. The counselor said she'd look into it, but on my way out, Mrs. Lane ran up to me and pulled me aside. She said, "Kayla is a hormonal teenager trying to avoid consequences. Are you seriously going to believe her?" I replied, "I'm going to believe my daughter before I believe a stranger," and walked out. 2 days later, a meeting was set up, and I walked in with Kayla. The kid who got hit, Ben, was sitting with a bandage around his forehead, just out of the hospital. Mrs. Lane immediately pointed at Kayla and said, "She threw the rock," but Ben looked around and said, "Kayla never threw anything." "Mrs. Lane, you know who did. Why are you lying?" Mrs. Lane went pale instantly, and that's when the footage was actually pulled up. The kid who threw the rock was Mrs. Lane's nephew. When she found out,
My work is easy because I use ClickUp. Here's how I keep track of all my tasks. I start by brain dumping everything I need to get done in a list view. Next, I set a priority and a due date to keep things on track. I create custom statuses to organize my
Oh my god.
I picked my daughter up from school and heard her
this
stomach
something?
growling so loud that it scared me. "Why are you so hungry? Did you
I
use the
picked
lunch
it.
money I gave you?" She shook her head no and started crying. Our whole class has been saving our lunch money for our teacher to buy a new
Things on
house
track.
because she's getting evicted. She always tells us, "If you can help someone, you always should." So we're helping her. My heart broke. My daughter was starving herself to save her 4th grade teacher because the principal wasn't paying her enough. "Can you help us save her, Dad?" I said yes, because I do anything
Yes,
from
yeah.
her daughter. So the next day after school, I helped the kids set up tables in the parking lot. We put up a banner that said, "Help save our teacher." The kids laid out everything they had to sell. Pokemon cards, old game consoles,
Starving herself
toys
to
they
save her
brought from
4th grade
home.
teacher.
The kids were
Because the
smiling,
principal
making
wasn't paying
sales,
her.
counting every dollar from the glass jar, until the principal walked out of the school. He looked at the tables, looked at the banner, and ripped it down, crumbled it into a ball, and threw it at one of the kids. "This is school property. You can't do this here." One of the kids held the jar with all their earnings in his hands. The principal saw the jar and snatched it away from him. "Any funds raised on school grounds belong to the school. The teacher gets paid enough. This is mine now." He laughed while the kids cried and walked away with the jar. My daughter ran to me and held my leg. "Dad, if the teacher doesn't get enough money to buy a new home, she has to quit. I don't want her to. She's the reason I love school." She started crying. I needed to do something to help. I pulled out my phone and wrote a post online about what happened, hoping someone out there would care. No one replied, and the next morning, I took my daughter to say goodbye to the teacher. The kids were surrounding the teacher, crying, hugging her. Suddenly, a black SUV pulled into the parking lot. A man in a black suit stepped out. The teacher gasped, like she knew him. He walked straight to the teacher. "I saw the post last night. You probably don't remember me, but I was the hungry kid in your class 15 years ago. You brought me extra food every day." He held up a check of $100,000. "You always told me, if you can help someone, you always should. You help everyone. It's time someone helps you." The teacher collapsed into tears. The man looked at the principal in the doorway and handed him a $1 note. "You said the teacher gets paid enough, so I think this is enough for you too." The whole parking lot laughed at him. In the middle of a training session, I saw a man's eye peeking out from inside the landing mat, watching the underage girls. Now I was coaching the freshman high jump team, and I knew if I exposed him right now, I'd forever scare them away from coming back. So instead, I decided to make him pay. I started sprinting and jumped over the bar, hitting the mat as hard as possible. The man groaned in pain, and I saw the zip on the mat moving. He was trying to get out. I told the girls to line up, and right as the gap in the mat was getting bigger, one of them jumped and crashed onto him. Again, he violently groaned and coughed. The girl looked down with a worried face. "Ugh, what was that?" I panicked because I knew I couldn't tell her, so I quickly grunted, saying it was just my stomach problems. I had every girl do the drill 5 times each, crash landing on him again and again. I stayed by the mat for every jump, and every time I saw him try to open it, I zipped it closed. He stopped grunting after 20 or so hits. hits, and after training was done, I carried the mat out to the dumpster and called police. A teenager walked up to my food truck and ordered a hot dog, and while I was turned around making it for him, he reached his hand into my tip jar and took out some money. He started telling me about his new PlayStation and how excited he was to play it, just trying to seem normal, and when I turned back around, he told me he needs to run to his car to get cash for the hot dog. He walked off with my $30, and by the time I noticed, he was already gone. I was mad but couldn't do anything about it, until a few days later, a woman walked up to my truck. She asked me, "Did a young man steal from your tip jar a few days ago?" And when I told her yes, she looked over her shoulder and said, "Miles, come out here right now." The same teenager who took my tip money stepped out with his head low. The woman said, "I'm his mother. My son wasn't raised like that. He's sorry." The kid apologized, and the woman said, "And to show you he's sorry, he's going to give you some money." The teenager started crying as he opened his wallet and pulled out $400, saying, "I sold my PlayStation to pay you back, sir." I told him he didn't have to pay me back, but his mom just put the $400 in my tip jar and said, "My son needs to know if he takes things from people, things will be taken from him." A woman walked into my pawn shop with a violin and asked if I could give her $50 for it. But when I looked at it, I realized it was a 1743 vintage violin worth millions. I asked where she got it, and she said, "My mother just left it for me. Please, is it worth anything? I need grocery money." Her kids were in the car outside, skinny and with torn clothes. I looked at the violin again. If I took it, I'd never have to work again. But as I watched her filling out the sale form, I simply couldn't do it. I went to tell her what it's worth, but then my boss Gerald came up and yanked the violin from her. "We'll take it," he was smiling wide, and I immediately realized he knew. He gave her the $50, and she said, "Thank you so much," and walked out before I could stop her. Gerald started laughing, screaming he was rich, calling the woman an idiot, and walked to the back with the violin. I watched her drive away, and when I looked over, Gerald was already taking pictures of the violin, planning to sell it. I couldn't believe it, and waited until he went to the bathroom. I quickly snuck in his office and grabbed the violin. I then took the woman's sale form she'd put her address down, and immediately ran out. I drove to her house while Gerald called screaming the whole way. I knocked on her door and saw her kids behind her, trying to cut up cardboard boxes into clothes. I explained to her that her violin was worth millions. Her jaw immediately dropped. She took the violin and started crying. I was happy, but then I saw a text from Gerald saying I was fired. I didn't care at first because I'd done the right thing. Until 4 weeks passed. I hadn't found a job and was short on rent. I swallowed my pride and went back to beg for my job. Gerald smirked. "You can have your job back, but only if you go and get the violin off the woman." I didn't want to do it, but my rent was due tomorrow. I was deciding what to do when I heard the doors open. The woman walked in, but she was holding an envelope. She gave it to me, and when I opened
Of course, an ad. An ad.
it, I saw a check for 25% of $4 million. I sold the violin. This is my way of saying thank you. I looked and saw her kids in her car, now smiling and wearing new clothes. Gerald saw the check and instantly freaked out. "Where's my cut?" The woman told him, "You paid $50 for something worth millions from a woman who needed grocery money. You don't get a cent." She walked out, and that's when one of the kids looked at Gerald and started playing an imaginary violin for him. I sat on my roof at 9 p.m. with my dad's old paintball gun across my lap and waited for them to show up. Every Friday for 2 months, they'd come up our street with a carton of eggs and unload on our front door. My mom scrubbed yolk off the wood every Saturday morning on her hands and knees. Last week, she sat down on the porch and just cried. The cops told us boys will be boys, so I spent every dollar of my allowance at Home Depot, raided the garage, and built the trap myself. I heard them before I saw them, loud, laughing, the ringleader's voice carrying up the block. "Tonight, we're going for the windows." They turned into our yard with a fresh carton of eggs, and the motion lights snapped on. They froze in the floodlights mid-throw. The ringleader recovered first. "Big deal. It's a light. Throw the eggs." His foot hit the second tripwire. Sprinklers fired full pressure from every angle and soaked them. The eggs in their hands turned to slime. 2 of the smaller boys started backing toward the street. "Don't you dare leave!" The third tripwire fired the paint sprayer at chest height and lit them up red. The smaller boys screamed and bolted. The ringleader was alone in my yard, dripping, painted, holding a carton of mush. He spun, looking for me. Then he looked up. I leveled the paintball gun at him. He started slowly stepping back toward the street. "Please, bro, it was just a joke, please." I climbed down silent as ever and walked toward him with the gun raised and emptied it into his egg carton until it exploded yolk and paint all over his face and chest. He dropped to his knees in our yard. My mom opened the front door. She'd been watching from the kitchen window the whole time. I looked at her. "Nobody makes you scrub anything ever again." He scrambled up and bolted down the street. I raised the gun and fired one more shot. He yelped in the distance and kept running. My dad and I were out fishing in the middle of the ocean when he cut the engine and told me to dump the bait. I lifted the cooler lid expecting fish guts, and instead found white bricks taped up and stacked all the way to the top. Dad clapped my shoulder, grinning ear to ear. I've been running coke for the cartel for 20 years, mijo. And now that you're done with school, it's time you joined the family business. 2 days later, he handed me a backpack with a brick inside and pointed at a house across town. All you gotta do is knock once,
Bro, my
hand it over,
sister's
and walk
laughing.
straight back to the car. He waited in the driver's seat while I walked up to the porch. The door swung open, and a little kid in dinosaur pajamas
I
was
actually
standing
laugh.
there holding a juice box.
I
Are
don't
you the
really
doctor
know.
my mom called? Behind him, his mom was face down on the carpet with a glass pipe an inch from her
my
hand.
God,
The
he
kid
died.
stepped aside to let me in, and I just stood there, frozen on the welcome mat with a brick of coke in my backpack. Dad honked from the driveway, so I set the package on a table by the door and walked back to the car without
Nah.
saying anything. I watched the house shrink in the side mirror until we turned the corner and the kid disappeared from view. Dad clapped my
No.
shoulder again, grinning ear to ear. That's my boy
Cocaine?
Mijo. He was still humming when we pulled into the
Mijo,
driveway.
Mijo.
That night, I sat alone in my car, staring at Dad's boat hitched to the truck. I kept seeing that kid in the doorway holding his juice box, and all I could think about was how Mom raised me better than this. I pulled out my phone and called the DEA tip line. I gave them the marina, the boat, and the time. At sunrise, Dad whistled the whole way down the dock, fired up the engine, and pointed us toward open water. He grinned at me from behind the wheel. Today, mijo, you're gonna do the dump yourself. I lifted the cooler lid, and that's when the Coast Guard came over the radio. 3 boats boxed us in within seconds, and they had Dad cuffed face down on the deck before he could finish a sentence. He kept his eyes on me the whole time, scanning my face like he was searching for an answer. Mijo, who would do this to us? I lifted up my phone so he could see the DEA hotline still up on the screen. Me, the grin slid off his face for the first time all morning. Dad spent 20 years teaching me how to dump the bait. He never realized I was the bait. For the 3rd day in a row, Marix blocked me and my grandma at the school gate just to make fun of my grandma. Why does she walk with that cane? It's so ugly. He grabbed the bottom of it, thinking that it was a weak cane. He had no idea that her cane was reinforced with metal on the inside. Grandma tried to tug it back, but Marix pulled his leg back to kick. His foot connected, and I heard something crunch. It was the sound of his leg against the cane. Marix collapsed onto the pavement, screaming, clutching his foot as his ankle ballooned inside his shoe. My grandma's cane had shattered his foot. I helped Grandma to the car, laughing about it the whole way home. But the next morning, the principal called me down and brought me to his office. Marix's parents were already waiting, with Marix slumped in a chair beside them, foot wrapped in a thick cast, glaring
You
at the
did it
floor
to
like he wanted to
yourself.
set it on fire.
did it
His
to
mom
yourself.
shut up the second I walked in. That's the
Also,
boy.
the-
His
the
grandmother is the
latency
one who crippled
is
my
bad,
son.
so
His
I
dad
might,
jabbed his finger at my chest. Your grandma is never stepping foot on this property again, and your family is covering every hospital bill. I stared at them for a second, then reached down and twisted the rubber tip off the bottom of Grandma's cane. The reason why his foot broke is because he kicked a cane that's filled with metal on the inside. I screwed the tip back on, and Marix went pale. He had no idea. His dad didn't even pause. That's worse. She's been walking around children with a metal weapon. She's a danger to every student here. His mom looked at the principal. Either she's banned by the end of today, or we're getting our lawyer involved. I just stood there, while Marix started to smirk at me from his chair. The principal raised his hand at the mom. Are you finished talking yet? He spun his monitor toward them and played the gate camera footage of Marix winding up and kicking Grandma's cane out of nowhere. Your son just physically attacked an elderly woman on school property, and you walked in here trying to blame her for what happened to his foot. The dad opened his mouth, but the principal kept going. Marix is suspended. Marix shot out of his chair, screaming, "When I'm back, I'm snapping that stupid cane in half." The principal exhaled. He's expelled, and tell your lawyer to give me a call. I'd love to walk him through what I just watched. I was getting flowers ready for my first date with a girl from Hinge when my brother grabbed my phone to look at the girl's profile. He immediately started laughing at me. You're going on a date with her?
Of course, I know that.
Extremely annoyed because my
By the
brother
way,
couldn't stand when I had something
I need to
nice,
make it
and he always
distract-
tried to ruin it for me. Chill, bro. I'm okay. I don't need your help. He was already putting his jacket on.
Hey,
You're
Mrs.
bad with
Easy.
women. I'm going to help you. I'm not taking no for an answer. I was irritated because I knew he was going to
Yeah.
ruin this for me. When we got to the restaurant,
No,
she was already
this
sitting at
one.
the table. She was even prettier in person, and I immediately started sweating. But before I could introduce myself or give her the flowers, my brother sat down next to her and reached out his hand. She looked confused. Who are you? My brother laughed. I'm his dating coach. He's never
Nope,
been on a
you're
date
not.
before, so I'm here to make sure he doesn't embarrass himself in front of a beautiful girl like you. I sighed and thought that the whole situation was screwed, but I figured it was still worth a shot at trying to win her over, just in case she was my future wife. So I sat down across from them and pulled out a piece of paper from my jacket. It was a drawing I made of her dog from her dating profile, because girls like when you notice them for more than just their looks. I slid it across the table. I saw your dog on your profile. I thought you'd like this. My brother snatched it out of her hands, looked at it, and burst out laughing. You brought a drawing of her dog to a first date? You're cooked. This is exactly why you need me. He crumpled it up and tossed it on the floor. I figured the whole situation was going to shit, so I put in an AirPod to play music and distract myself from how angry I was at my brother. He grabbed her hand and said, "We should ask the Chuz to leave, right? He clearly isn't meant to be here." Suddenly, she pulled her hand away from my brother. My eyes widened with shock, and I took out my AirPod. Even my brother looked shocked. She went under the table and picked up the crumpled drawing. She smoothed it out slowly, then looked at me. "You actually read my profile. My dog died last week, and this was the sweetest thing anyone's ever done for me." I smiled like a lunatic. She turned to my brother. "Do you
Yo.
even know my
Yo,
dog's
bro.
name?" He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. "Did you
trying to
even
read
read my
my hair
profile, or did you
over
just
for no
look at my
reason."
pictures?" He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Well, you're beautiful." She stood up and sighed like she was sick of him. "Yes, I get it. You think I'm attractive, but I think it's clear that you're the one who isn't meant to be here." She grabbed my hand, took the flowers, and shooed him away like a fly. I couldn't contain my joy, and I dabbed on him. She dabbed too, and that's when I knew we were meant to be. "Daddy, can I sign up for the school talent show? I want to sing." My 6-year-old held up the school flyer with both hands. I tried not to cringe
He's
on
a
the
gamer.
inside, because unfortunately, my daughter was horrendous at singing, but I didn't want her to feel bad. So I lied, "Sure, honey, you'll do amazing."
sing
I figured that
better.
nothing bad would happen anyway, because it was just a school talent show and wasn't anything serious. But that night she was in the kitchen when she practiced her song. It sounded so bad that I thought the glass was going to crack. "Join in, Daddy. I
Wait,
love
this-
when we sing together." As I sang the song Let It Go from Frozen
Let
with her,
it
I couldn't help but feel like the
go,
worst
let it
dad in the
go.
world, because I knew she was going to get made fun of at the talent show. She put her hands on her hips. "Daddy, I'm going to be a star." I didn't know how to tell her that maybe she should focus on doing her homework and choosing a standard career instead of singing. Then came the day of the talent show. She stepped to the microphone in front of 200 parents. I was already cringing as she stepped on the stage and yelled, "Hello everyone," because I didn't know if this was going to be the start of her getting bullied. And everything changed when the piano started playing. She sang, let it go," and my jaw dropped to the floor with shock. Her voice was absolutely beautiful. Nothing like the voice that she usually uses when she sings with me at home. I was beaming with a mixture of pride and confusion. She was so good that when she finished, she got a standing ovation. When she finally came down, I pulled her aside. "My love, when did you learn to sing like that?" She patted my arm. "Daddy, every time we sang together, I sang badly on purpose, because no offense, but when you sing with me, you sound really bad. I didn't want you to feel sad that I was better at singing than you, so I faked being bad too." I took one puff of my inhaler and the alarm exploded. The bathroom door
Okay.
flew open and the
Is it a
vice
vape?
principal snatched it out of my hand.
That
"Give me
looks
that
like an
vape, you little criminal." "That's
Oh,
not a
no,
vape, it's
no,
my
that's
inhaler.
not
I have
a vape,
asthma
that's-
and I need it to breathe. Give it back." He pulled his hands back, dropped it into a plastic
Oh,
bag,
Rick,
and
Nick-
sealed it. "Please." The nurse gave it to me. "I can't breathe without it." He just ignored me. "You can't even go 5 seconds without hitting a vape. What's wrong with your generation?" He tucked the bag under his arm, grabbed mine,
see,
and pulled me
just
into the
look
hallway.
closely.
I reached for the bag, but he yanked me
An
forward.
inhaler.
I grabbed his sleeve and tried to say,
Just
"I
try
can't
it."
breathe," but nothing came out. He kept walking. My vision blurred. My knees hit the floor. Everything went black. When I opened my eyes, I was in the nurse's office with an oxygen mask on my face. I looked up and saw my mom holding my hand. Nurse Amy had her stethoscope on my chest and was whispering to my mom,
his,
"He's lucky he
lights
made
on.
it." My mom stood up and slammed her fists against the door. That's when the vice principal walked in, holding the Ziploc bag with my inhaler, like it was evidence. Well, looks like the little criminal has woken up. "I can't believe you passed out because I didn't let you hit your vape." He looked at my mom and smiled. "You failed as a parent. You should be aware that your kid is doing drugs. Shame on you." My mom didn't say anything. She just raised her hand and slapped him. "You prick. I'm gonna sue you until you're left living under a bridge. You can't tell the difference between an inhaler and a vape? He almost died in your hallway." He folded his arms. "Our new alarm system flagged it. Are you saying you're smarter than our technology?"
Yes.
My mom walked us into his office and pointed at the bag on his desk. Nurse Amy stepped forward and held up her phone. This is the approval I signed 2 years ago. I told you about it when you were hired. He looked past her at the monitor. It detected chemical compounds. That's what it's there for. I reached across the desk for the bag. He slid it toward himself. My mom pressed both hands flat on his desk. Pull up the sensor data, or I call the school board and they pull it up for you. He turned to the monitor and pulled up the sensor data. See? Right there. Chemical compounds. Exactly what the system is designed to catch. Nurse Amy walked up to the screen and leaned in. She stepped back. You confiscated albuterol sulfate. What is that? His rescue inhaler. The one I approved him to carry 2 years ago. The one that was keeping him alive. My mom grabbed the mouse and scrolled through the detection history. 17 alerts since the system was installed.
What if your team could start every call one step ahead? 11 Labs AI voice agents are removing bottlenecks with streamlined customer lead.
My mom snatched the plastic bag off his desk, opened it, and handed me my inhaler. She looked him in the eye. You trusted a machine over a child who couldn't breathe. I took a puff of my inhaler and told him this mango berry vape is amazing. She slid into the passenger seat with the same smile she'd worn both times she failed me before. Her pen clicked twice as she set the clipboard on her knee. All right, driver's license test, 3rd attempt. Go ahead and adjust your mirrors for me. I tilted the rear view, and the dash cam light blinked red behind it. The one my dad made me keep on after she'd failed me twice on stuff she made up. He was on the bench outside the DMV watching us pull out. A 3rd fail meant another summer at Subway, saving up $80 I didn't have. I counted 3 full seconds at the stop sign on Linden before her pen scratched the first mark. That was a California stop, didn't even slow down for it. Noted. She told me to turn with 30 feet of road left, and I had to stomp the brake to make it. That was a hesitation, failure to commit to a directional change. Noted. A yellow light caught me at the next intersection, and I made a clean stop, which sent her hands slamming the dash. What are you doing? You don't stop for a yellow, you go through it. She marked the next mistake on her clipboard before her hands had left the dashboard. That's a failure to maintain traffic flow right there. Noted. She kept writing as I drove the rest of the way back. As I pulled into the spot, she clicked her pen one last time.
Okay,
And of
that's
course
the
there was the
color.
speed, going 42 and a 35 all the
Ideally,
way
you
down
can
Linden.
go or
Noted.
not
I'd been
go.
doing 33. She tore the failed sheet off her clipboard and held it out without a word. I took it, then reached up and tapped the dashcam screen. Her own voice came out of the speaker. That was a California stop. Didn't even slow down for it. Noted. The GPS readout on screen showed 33 the whole stretch she'd called 42. Her face went white. She lunged for the mirror and her seatbelt locked and yanked her back into the seat. Turn that off. Turn it off. Dad was already walking across the lot toward the car. I opened my door and stepped out. Mirrors are perfectly adjusted, sweetheart. Dad pulled the dash cam off the mirror and held it up as he walked her back inside. The supervisor watched the footage twice and fired her before we left the building. She was still crying at her desk when they escorted her out. Clipboard in her lap,
Yeah.
pen clicking in
Fire
her
her.
hand. I had my license 3 days later. That Saturday, I drove through town and spotted her sitting alone on a park bench near the DMV. I rolled the window down. I mimed writing in a notepad. Noted. I flicked her off and drove away. When Haley pushed open the door, I instantly
funny.
felt butterflies in my stomach. She was my gym crush for months, and when I overheard her talking about how much she liked baking, I knew what I had to do. I spent days making cookies, and when they were finally perfect, I brought them to the gym. And when I walked in, I saw her. This was my chance. I leaned up against the bar next to her, and her friends all giggled, but I happened to mention I'd recently been baking. I actually have some cookies here. Want to test some? She smiled and told me she'd love to, so I brought her a cookie. I waited excitedly for her to take a bite, and as soon as she did, she said, "Wow, these are really go." She froze, and as she looked down at the cookie, her eyes went wide. Her face turned from a smile into a deep panic. Does this have peanuts? I was confused, but nodded yes. She instantly dropped the cookie. Oh my God. Oh my God. She was gasping for air, grabbing her neck. Help! Her tongue was swelling up, and she fell over choking. My heart was racing, and I yelled, "Help! Someone help!" Everyone was staring, and the paramedics ran over. "What the hell did you do? She's dying!" They did CPR on her, and everyone around was crying. She wasn't moving anymore. Then, one of her friends ran back with an EpiPen and jabbed it into her thigh. Everyone watched as she still wasn't moving. "What did you do to her? You killed her. I'm sorry. I just made cookies." She was about to slap me when she gasped for air. Everyone was shocked, but she started coughing. I tried to say I was sorry, but before they took her to the hospital, she canceled her membership. For 10 years, I never once beat my brother to shotgun. He'd beat me to the car every single time. He always let me have first pick at everything else, but he never once gave me that seat. The second mom said we were leaving, he'd already be at the door. Catch me if you can, slowpoke. I'd take off after him every time, but he was just too fast. I never gave up though. I swore the next time was going to be different. Then one Saturday morning, Mom said we were going to the diner, and I bolted from the couch like the house was on fire. I slapped the passenger door before he made it off the porch. Shotgun. He laughed and held his hands up. All right, you got me, slowpoke. He climbed into the back. I buckled in and turned around and saw him sitting where I'd been my whole life. He reached over the seat and slapped me on the shoulder. The whole drive he was kicking the back of my seat, asking if it was as good as I thought it'd be. I told him yeah, it was even better. Mom pulled into the parking lot across the street from the diner. He shoved his door open and grinned at me through the window. You beat me to shotgun, but you won't beat me to the diner. Catch me if you can, slowpoke. He took off across the street. I never even heard the car. I just saw him go down. Mom was screaming, and I couldn't move. I just sat there in the front seat watching him not get up. I'm 40 years old now. Every car I get in, I sit in the front. Nobody ever fights me for it. I won that seat for life that morning, and I'd give it back for one more loss. My best man shook me awake. Bro, wake up. Look at your chest. I looked down, and a woman's face I didn't recognize was tattooed across my entire chest. Who was that? Did I get that tattooed last night when I was drunk during my bachelor's party? He held up his camera and laughed. Bro, I was about to ask you that same question. Your wedding is in 24 hours. You might be cooked. I jumped out of bed and threw on a shirt because I knew I had to get it removed before my future wife saw it. We burst into the first tattoo removal clinic we could find, and I ripped my shirt off. The doctor took one look and shook her head. I can't help you get rid of this. My jaw dropped because I was scared a drunk mistake was about to ruin my wedding. What do you mean? The tattoo is way too big for a laser removal because the laser won't be strong enough to affect it. The only option is a surgery where you cut the skin off. I turned on my phone, ready to text my fiance about what had happened, but my best man grabbed it. Dude, maybe there's one more option. Isn't your mom super holistic? Maybe she has some homemade remedy that can help you. I was skeptical, but figured it was worth a shot. We drove straight to
I think the hardest part of starting is convincing yourself it's worth starting.
my mom's house, and as soon as we came through the door, I ripped my shirt off. Mom, I need your help. I got a tattoo of another woman last night, and I have no idea who she is, but I need you to help me somehow remove it. When she looked at the tattoo, I expected her to be shocked, but she just nodded and laughed like she expected this. Honey, I know who that woman is. I was so shocked I didn't even know what to say. It's your grandmother. Last night you were drunk and you texted your father saying you wanted a tattoo. He thought you were joking and sent you a photo of his mom, but I guess you took it seriously. I just pulled into the handicap spot when a woman ran up filming through my window, screaming I was a fraud. She kept the camera locked on my face, narrating to her followers that she'd caught another one. I pointed at the parking tag hanging from my rearview mirror, but her camera didn't move. I kept my hands flat on the wheel so she couldn't claim I was being aggressive, and told her I just needed 10 minutes inside. I'd been through this before, and it had gone badly. By then, 2 shoppers with carts had stopped behind her to watch. She swung the camera back to her own face. You guys, look at this. No wheelchair, no cane. This is exactly what fraud looks like. A man in a polo shirt drifted over with his phone already raised. I see this every weekend. Guys like him taking spots from people who actually need them. She held her phone to the glass, screen facing me. The post was already typed up like she'd done this 100 times before. My license plate sitting in the caption, her thumb hovering over the share button. 40,000 followers. Your face is everywhere by tonight. She pressed the phone flat against the window, screaming through the glass, breath fogging it. Get out of that car. You guys are about to see exactly what an able-bodied liar looks like. I opened my door. She stumbled back, then chased me around to the other side of the car as I opened the back passenger door. My daughter sat in her car seat with noise-canceling headphones on, her hands pressed flat against them anyway, rocking, eyes squeezed shut, a weighted bunny tucked under one arm. I lifted her out, and the second she felt the open air, she started to scream. The woman with the phone lowered it. The man in the polo shirt kept his phone up, his arm slowly dropping until it hung at his side. He turned and walked back to his SUV without a word. I held my daughter against my chest, one hand on her head. The bunny pressed between us and walked past the woman without slowing. I said it over my shoulder. She has Down syndrome. The last person who screamed at our window sent her into a meltdown so bad she was hospitalized for a week. You came 2 minutes from doing it again. Her thumb was still on the share button. I was being introduced to my new class of students when a kid threw an egg at the wall. The principal pulled me aside. That's Kenny. He's the most difficult student in the school. Just try to make it to June, and good luck. When I returned to the classroom, Kenny's phone was blaring the song Fire Fireflies on full volume. I walked over. Can you help hand out calculators while I wipe the egg off the wall? I heard whispers around me. No teacher has ever trusted him before. He looked shocked, but grabbed the stack. In the break room, a teacher shook her head. You're wasting your time. That thing is beyond help. I defended him, but during lunch, he started a food fight that got 3 kids sent home. The assistant principal dropped a formal warning on my desk. Your experimental methods are disrupting the entire grade. Just ignore him and punish him like everyone else. I didn't know if I was doing the right thing anymore until parent-teacher night came, and I noticed something they didn't. His chair stayed empty. No mom, no dad, no one. So that same week, I called Kenny after school and slid his essay across my desk. These are good ideas. You just need structure. Come by tomorrow and I'll help. He pushed the paper back. Teachers don't help students like me. Not all us teachers are the same, you know. The next afternoon, I waited for him in my empty classroom for 40 minutes. After that, I didn't know how to help him, but I kept trying, and the next week, I assigned personal essays. Kenny turned his in late, the paper wrinkled and stained. I know I'm not a big part of your life, but you changed mine. I didn't know what he meant until I read what he wrote. I still remember the day that everything went wrong. Dad screamed from my bedroom. I ran downstairs and saw my mother's body on the floor. She wasn't breathing because she had unalived herself. My father dropped dead from a heart attack later that day. Every fight, every disruption, every cruel joke is me pushing people away before they can leave me like my parents did. I thought it was easier that way, but maybe I was wrong. Something shifted after that, and the next morning, Kenny was sitting in the front of my classroom before the bell rang. In every math class, he'd volunteer to hand out the calculators. At the end of every class, he'd help me clean up, and when we made it to June, he walked across that stage with a 3.2 GPA and partial scholarship to State College. My older sister returned from her dream college and said she's never going back there again. She'd stolen money from our parents to afford the tuition in Spain, and when they forgave her, she demanded they also buy her business class flights, or she wasn't going. They agreed because she always got everything she ever wanted, but then she came back midway through the semester and wouldn't speak to anyone. I found her on the kitchen floor sobbing into her hands, but when I asked her what happened, Mom pulled me aside and whispered, my sister went through something traumatic and I shouldn't ask her about it. That night, my sister announced she wasn't going back to Spain. I'd given up the money I was going to use for my first car to help with her fees, but she was crying so hard, I understood. Every night, I heard her sobbing through the walls, and she walked around the house with sunken, depressed eyes. When Mom made her food, she couldn't even bring herself to eat it and just stayed inside all day. One time, I suggested she could take online classes in the same college and still get her degree, but she looked at me with red eyes and said, you have no idea what I went through. I can never even look at that place again. I backed up and told her I was sorry, and one day my parents asked me to loan them $2,000. They said my sister had found the strength to go back to college, but it had to be a different one. I told them I'd think about it, because I needed to know the reason she left before giving up the money. That night, I walked into her room and finally asked her what happened in Spain. She looked at me with tears streaming down her face and handed me her phone. I looked at the screen and saw something about a shop getting closed down, but had no idea what it meant. Then my sister looked me in the eyes and said, my favorite churro spot near the college closed down. I can't go back there and walk past it knowing it's closed. It's too traumatizing. I looked at her crying and realized this entire meltdown was because one of the 50 dessert places in her area had closed down. For 6 years after my brother died, I kept his Xbox controller on the couch next to me. Every Saturday, he'd come in, ruffle my hair, and
balls across multiple apps. You need ClickUp.
Yeah, you do.
time I asked to be player 1, he wagged his finger and said, "No dude, player 2's the better seat. You get to watch someone you love have fun." I never asked again. I lived for Saturdays just to spend time with him. Then one spring he died. After that I played alone but would always put the red controller back on his cushion. It wasn't the same, but he was still there next to me in spirit. A year after I lost him, my little brother Noah was born. At 2, he reached for the red controller and I moved it to the armrest. At 3, he pointed at it and asked whose it was. I told him his brother's, and he asked who his brother was. I told him a good one. At 4, he asked to play every Saturday. I made excuses for a year. Then one morning he climbed up, put his hands on my knee, and said, "Please, just once." I didn't have anything left. I patted the cushion next to me and said, "Come here, little man." Noah scrambled up. I gave him the black controller and picked up the red one for the first time. "Can I be player 1? I wagged my finger and ruffled his hair. "No, dude, player 2's the better seat. You get to watch someone you love have fun." Noah settled into the cushion with both hands on the controller. That's when I realized I was doing what my brother used to do. I looked down at Noah grinning at the screen. Ethan was right. It is the better seat. I had one leg out the window when I heard the music start at the pool party down the street. I'd been grounded for 2 weeks and my crush from 3rd period was going to be at that party in a bikini. I pulled my other leg up onto the sill. I was getting to that party if it killed me. I dropped
Okay. I'm gonna just do random stuff. Okay. I'm playing in Roblox. Which game? For garden stick. Okay, what are these? Maybe. Yo. This is a good game, but it does aimbot. These animations. Yo, it's actually good. Oh, I think I know how they do. What is this? Oh, what is this? Huh. Okay. Let's play. Wait, I'm gonna play my or okay. I go to geometry dash. Okay, what is this? I need to collect all the things. What is this? How did I die? I'm gonna play horror game. Slaughterhouse. Oh, 1 pixel. What? This is so broken. is this? No. My dinosaur. Yeah, I'm playing it first. Wait. Okay.
Press start.
Why am I lagging? Why am I lagging? Wait, Bob. I'm lagging. That was well, I was doing it like nothing. What is this? Look at the stream, okay, OBS, and how much is play my life? Wait, let me do something. I'm gonna create the level and then at the end I'll play the level. Okay, I'll add it like this so you can't skip it. Notice that you won't see the coin, you'll just see this, which is a good thing. And and then where's the should add spikes between these, and then right over here I need to actually do this. So, put this here. Okay, I think this is good. Need to lock in on this part. Let me do a start position. Start. I need to lock in. Box. Huh? Okay, what is this box? Let me. Wag na Anwar. Masasa. Do the cube. He shocked. Okay, so where is upside down? I don't know. Is this upside down? fish now better. Oh yeah. Okay, here it is. Then we will put these. I'll make it. Wait. Oh, it's. I'll do ship here. I'm gonna make. Wait. Is this normal? Okay. Then we will put spikes like this. This. Okay. I should make it like. Okay. I'll make it too extreme. The ship. I mean, not the ship. The wave. Look, you need to do a 4x. Spam. Ah! لا قلت لي حيت غليتك غادي يحفظ قلتيها استنى I'm low-key just getting inspired by my own design. What is this? Wait, I like the frame perfect. If I add the orb here, okay. Should I make this the club step monster in my level? Nah, I think I'll. better. Bro, this Club Step Monster is the best I've seen. Okay. Okay. Make it this. Okay. I think this is good. Maybe make it 4 so you have control. So do this. Okay. How am I doing frame perfect? Okay. Okay, why is it double? Okay, this is good. Now I'll put the start position instead of here. I'll put it right over here so I can. Let me test the whole level. Okay, what is this? Oh my god, I clicked. Bro. Wait. I'm clicking. Okay, what am I doing? Yeah, let's go. I gotta lock it. Okay. 88%. Let's go. Tapos how many seasoning? Ano? Mama. Okay, so need to log in. Log in. What am I doing? Honey. What did I do? I did not expect. Okay, I lagged.